One of the most powerful things a man can ever master is emotional centering. It's not about being stoic to the point of numbness, and it's definitely not about suppressing how you feel. Emotional centering means you're rooted. You don't get easily thrown off. You're not reacting out of fear, pain, or ego. You feel everything, but you don't let those emotions dictate your character or your choices. When a woman pulls away, gets distant, or even leaves, the emotionally uncentered man panics. He spirals. He starts calling, texting, overthinking, chasing, and losing his ground. He stops being the man she was drawn to in the first place, and starts becoming someone she wants to run from. Not because he's a bad person, but because his energy feels unstable. Women can feel when a man's center is off. They may not always verbalize it, but they feel it in their nervous system. It makes them feel unsafe, not physically, but emotionally. A centered man doesn't stop feeling. He still hurts. He still misses her. He still has moments of doubt, but the difference is he anchors those feelings. He knows how to sit in his emotions without letting them control him. Instead of reacting, he reflects. Instead of chasing, he observes. Instead of spiraling, he grounds himself in truth. And what's that truth? That his worth doesn't rise or fall based on one woman's affection. That love is not control. That distance doesn't have to mean defeat. When a man is emotionally centered, he doesn't try to manipulate the outcome. He's not texting her 15 times, hoping for a crumb of attention. He's not trying to prove his value. He simply continues to be the man he knows he is, calm, clear, directed, grounded, and the irony, that's exactly what pulls a woman back, because emotional centering is rare. It's attractive not because it's cool, but because it represents safety. It tells her, this man won't fall apart when things get hard. This man won't blame her, guilt her, or beg her. He will feel what he feels, but he will lead with clarity and not chaos. Women return to the energy that feels whole, that feels safe, that feels still, not still as in lifeless, still as in deeply rooted. She wants to be able to collapse into a man emotionally, and she can't do that if he's collapsing on his own. Being emotionally centered also means you don't need closure to find peace. You give yourself what you need. You take ownership of your healing. You don't make her the center of your identity. You return to your own center. And from there, everything else becomes more clear. What you need, what you'll tolerate, and what's actually meant for you. The centered man is attractive not because of his looks or status, but because of his stillness in the storm, his refusal to be shaken by temporary emotions, his ability to love without losing himself. There's a powerful shift that happens in a man's life when he chooses purpose over pursuit. And this doesn't mean you stop caring about relationships or love. It means you stop making a woman the center of your identity. You stop chasing validation through connection. You stop treating her attention as your mission. Instead, your mission becomes your mission, and that shift changes everything. A woman can feel when a man's life revolves around her. It may seem flattering in the beginning, but over time it starts to feel heavy. It turns into pressure. A man who is constantly in pursuit, emotionally, mentally, energetically, starts to lose himself. He becomes inconsistent. He overthinks. He compromises his standards, his time, his peace. Not because he's weak, but because he hasn't locked into his deeper sense of direction. Purpose is what stabilizes a man. It gives him focus when emotions rise. It gives him discipline when his heart feels tempted to act out of insecurity. A man on purpose doesn't ignore love. He simply refuses to let it control his steps. He doesn't chase because he's already moving forward intentionally towards something bigger than just being chosen. When a man is immersed in his purpose, he becomes magnetic. There's a glow that comes from him. His energy shifts. His presence deepens. He stops needing constant reassurance from women because he's already validating himself through how he shows up every day. His life is rich with meaning, and that richness makes him attractive in a way that can't be faked. Women are naturally drawn to a man with direction, not just ambition, but real alignment, the kind of man who wakes up with something bigger than lust or loneliness driving him. He might want her, desire her, care for her deeply, but he doesn't lose himself if she pulls away. Why? Because she was never his why to begin with. This doesn't mean you don't value connection. It means you stop putting your life on pause for it. You stop reshaping yourself just to keep someone close. You stop becoming overly available at the cost of your goals. A woman wants to feel chosen, yes, but not at the cost of your own self-respect. She wants to know she's being invited into a man's already meaningful life, not being asked to become his life. A man who leads with pursuit over purpose often ends up bitter, burnt out, and confused, constantly trying to win someone over who's unsure, instead of building something with certainty in himself first. But a man who leads with purpose, he walks differently, he speaks differently, he loves from overflow, not emptiness. His pursuit isn't rooted in fear of losing her, it's rooted in the confidence that whatever aligns with his purpose will naturally remain, and whatever doesn't will remove itself without needing to be chased. Boundaries are not walls, they're standards. They're the invisible lines that define how you allow yourself to be treated, and more importantly, how you treat yourself. A man who lacks boundaries ends up betraying himself in the name of love, and over time, that betrayal becomes bitterness. The truth is, no matter how much you care about a woman, if you don't have self-respect, the relationship will never feel secure for either of you. When you respect yourself, you don't just speak it, you live it. You know when to walk away from disrespect, even if it comes from someone you love. You know when to say no, even when it's uncomfortable. You know when to pause communication, not to punish her, but to protect your peace. That kind of energy doesn't push her away, it actually creates safety. Because a woman feels safe when she knows a man has boundaries not just with her, but with life. Self-respect is what keeps you from chasing someone who's unsure about you. It's what stops you from accepting hot and cold behavior, mixed signals, and emotional breadcrumbs. It's what reminds you that you don't have to beg to be valued. You simply have to value yourself enough to not stay where you're not fully seen. That's not arrogance, that's self-honoring. Most men were never taught how to hold boundaries without becoming aggressive or passive-aggressive. So they either become doormats or dictators, but a highvalueman doesn't operate in extremes. He sets boundaries from a calm, centered place. He can say, "This doesn't work for me," without trying to control or shame her. He leads with clarity, not chaos, and that clarity allows him to stay rooted even when emotions run high. Boundaries are also a reflection of emotional maturity. They tell her, "I know who I am, and I know what I need to function at my best." And that kind of man commands respect. Not because he demands it, but because he embodies it. If a woman crosses a line and you let it slide because you're afraid to lose her, you've already started losing yourself. Every time you silence your truth just to keep someone around, you chip away at your own confidence. But when you speak your truth, when you honor your own values, even if it causes tension in the moment, it builds trust in the long run. A man with self-respect doesn't get lost in the high of being chosen. He knows the deeper question is, am I being honored? And if not, he's willing to risk rejection rather than settle for a version of love that costs him his dignity. She doesn't need you to be perfect, but she does need to feel that you have a spine, that you have standards, and that you'll still choose yourself, even in the face of love. Because if you won't protect your own peace, how can she trust you to protect anything else you build together? There's a misunderstanding that's been handed down to men for generations. The ideal that to be emotionally open is to be weak, that vulnerability means you're soft, or that expressing what you feel somehow takes away from your masculinity. But in reality, emotional availability is not the opposite of strength. It is strength when it's rooted in stability. A man who can be emotionally available without losing himself is one of the rarest kinds of men. He doesn't hide behind silence or distraction. He doesn't bury his pain in his work, in other women, or in anger. He's not afraid of his feelings, and he's not afraid of hers either. He's present, he listens, he speaks from the heart, not in desperation, but in truth. He knows that emotions are information, not weakness. He knows that being open doesn't mean being needy, it means being real. This type of emotional strength doesn't come from overexposure or oversharing. It's not about trauma, dumping or spilling your soul to be liked. It's about being able to say, here's how I feel, or that hurt, or I need a moment, without shame. It's about having the courage to be transparent without losing your footing. Women crave this kind of presence. Not emotional chaos, not emotional shutdown, but emotional clarity. She wants to know she can feel safe in your arms, not just physically, but emotionally. That she can bring her full self forward and not be met with defensiveness, judgment, or distance. And she also wants to know that you are in tune with yourself enough to meet her there, not as a boy seeking her approval, but as a man who's confident in his own emotional landscape. It takes strength to feel pain and not project it. It takes strength to admit you're struggling without collapsing. It takes strength to have the hard conversations that I feel disconnected, or I want more, or this dynamic isn't working for me, and still remain steady. It's easy to shut down, it's easy to run, but facing your own feelings with discipline and honesty, that's powerful. Too many men either suppress their emotions or become consumed by them, but emotional availability with strength is the middle ground. It's the ability to be honest and composed, expressive and self-responsible, intimate without being dependent. And that's the kind of energy that draws a woman in deeply, because she sees a man who isn't afraid of her heart, because he's not afraid of his own. She sees a man who can be soft without being spineless, and strong without being guarded. That balance is what allows connection to thrive. Not performative masculinity, not emotional avoidance, but a grounded, centered man who knows how to lead with both his heart and his backbone, a man with a growth mind that doesn't see failure as a reflection of his worth. He sees it as feedback. He understands that discomfort is a teacher, not a punishment. And when it comes to relationships, this mindset becomes the difference between staying stuck in pain or evolving into something stronger, more grounded, and more magnetic. When a woman leaves or pulls away, a fixed mindset man starts spiraling. He sees it as the end. He internalizes it. He asks, "What's wrong with me?" and either beats himself up or tries to change himself just enough to win her back. But a man with a growth mindset asks a better question. What can I learn from this? That man doesn't chase her, he chases clarity. He takes the pain and turns it inward, not to punish himself, but to refine himself. Not because he's trying to improve, to be accepted, but because he knows that life will keep repeating the same lessons until he learns them. He understands that the most powerful changes happen not when you're chosen, but when you choose yourself. Growth isn't about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more of who you're meant to be. The man who learns from every mistake, who reflects instead of reacts, who takes accountability without shame, that's a man who becomes dangerous in the best way. Because he stops being defined by rejection. He stops needing approval. He stops clinging to old patterns. And the shift doesn't go unnoticed, because energy doesn't lie. A woman can feel when a man is growing, not for her, but for himself. She can sense when he's not just saying the right things, but becoming someone different through action, consistency, and self-awareness. That kind of transformation makes her look twice. It makes her feel drawn in again, not out of pity or nostalgia, but because something real shifted. Growth mindset also means you don't fear loss because you trust your ability to rise again. You stop being afraid of the silence, the space, the breakup, or the rejection. You see it as part of the process. You stop asking, "How can I fix her opinion of me?" and start asking, "What kind of man do I want to be regardless of who stays?" A fixed mindset focuses on control, trying to shape outcomes, win her back, or manipulate attention. But growth mindset focuses on capacity, expanding your emotional intelligence, deepening your presence, sharpening your values. Becoming a man who learns from everything, even heartbreak. When you embody that kind of mindset, you walk differently. You show up in conversations with more depth. You hold eye contact with more certainty. You speak with less need to be right and more interest in being real. And people feel it, women feel it. Because a man who grows doesn't just heal, he becomes harder to walk away from, not because he's perfect, but because his evolution speaks louder than his pain ever did. Loving someone deeply doesn't mean clinging to them. It doesn't mean gripping tighter when they pull away or trying to convince them to stay. True love at its highest level is not about possession, it's about freedom. And the most powerful kind of love a man can offer is the kind that's full of presence, passion, and care, without needing to control the outcome. Non-attachment isn't cold, it isn't distant, it's not saying, "I don't care," it's saying, "I care deeply, but I won't lose myself in that care." It's being fully invested in the connection, fully open to the moment, and fully grounded in yourself, no matter what happens. That kind of energy is rare because most people confuse love with attachment. They think, if I feel this much, I have to have this person, I can't lose them, I can't let go. But that mindset comes from fear, not love. Non-attachment with love means you show up with a full heart, not a full grip. You give your best, you speak your truth, you support her, appreciate her, and make her feel safe. But you also understand she is still her own person. And love, real love, honors individuality. It doesn't try to absorb the other person to fill a void. A man who practices non-attachment doesn't try to force what's not flowing. He doesn't beg, overextend, or try to prove his worth. He loves from a place of confidence, not because he's guaranteed to be loved back, but because he knows that love is not about securing an outcome. It's about embodying a way of being, and here's the paradox. The less attached you are to needing someone, the more space there is for genuine connection to grow. Because no one wants to feel suffocated. No one wants to feel like they're responsible for someone else's emotional survival. When a man brings love that is open, unforced, and unattached, a woman can actually relax into it. She doesn't feel pressured. She doesn't feel tested. She feels chosen, not chased. This kind of love also allows you to walk away when necessary, not from a place of bitterness, but from a place of wisdom. You don't walk away to prove a point or play a game. You walk away because you know love should never cost your peace, your self-respect, or your alignment. Non-attachment doesn't mean indifference. It means maturity. It means loving without ownership, wanting someone in your life, but not making them the reason for your identity, holding space for a future together, but not collapsing if that future changes, being present and passionate while remaining whole and steady within yourself. When a woman feels this from a man, it's different. She feels the strength in your softness, the stability in your surrender, the clarity in your care. You're not trying to control her, you're simply allowing the connection to reveal its truth, without forcing it into a box it was never meant to fit. Consistency and integrity are the foundation of trust. They are not loud traits, they don't scream for attention, but they speak volumes over time. In a world full of mixed signals, unkept promises, and emotional unpredictability, a man who shows up the same way regardless of the mood or moment becomes a rare presence. And that presence creates security, not just for a woman, but for the man himself. Consistency is not about being perfect, it's about being reliable. It means your words match your actions, and your energy isn't flipping based on circumstances. If you say you're going to call, you do. If you say you're going to show up, you do. If you set a boundary, you hold it. Over time, that kind of follow-through becomes attractive in a way looks or charm never can. It's the subtle power of becoming dependable in a world that's constantly shifting. A woman doesn't need a man who says all the right things one day and disappears the next. She doesn't trust charm as much as she trusts patterns. The way you show up over time is what builds or breaks connection. One good week followed by silence isn't consistency. One deep conversation followed by emotional distance isn't integrity. It's the daily behavior, the follow-through, the emotional steadiness that tells her who you really are. And that's where integrity comes in. Integrity means doing what's right, even when it's inconvenient. It's not about performance or perception. It's about alignment. When your values, your words, and your actions all line up, you become powerful in a quiet, undeniable way. You don't have to prove your worth. Your character does that for you. A man with integrity doesn't just treat people well when he wants something. He doesn't lie to keep the peace or manipulate situations for his advantage. He tells the truth even when it's hard. He owns his mistakes without excuses. He doesn't shift who he is to fit someone else's expectations. He remains solid in who he is, and that solidity allows others to feel safe around him. Consistency and integrity are especially critical in relationships because love without trust can't grow. You can have chemistry, passion, connection, but if the other person never knows what version of you they're going to get, the foundation is shaky. Stability creates space for vulnerability. When a woman knows she can count on you emotionally, mentally, and energetically, she relaxes. She opens, she leans in, not because she has to, but because she wants to. And this isn't just about how you treat her. It's about how you treat yourself. Do you keep your word to you? Do you do what you say you'll do even when no one's watching? Because the way you show up in private is what builds the confidence you carry in public. The man who lives with consistency and integrity doesn't need to chase anything he attracts, because people feel the truth in his presence, not just in his promises. In the end, becoming a you man isn't about games, tactics, or trying to win someone back. It's about mastering yourself. When you lead with emotional grounding, live in purpose, hold strong boundaries, and grow with intention, your energy changes. You stop chasing and start attracting. Women return not because you begged, but because you became the kind of man who is deeply rooted in truth, strength, and clarity. Love flows back to a man who doesn't just want connection, but embodies the stability and self-respect that real connection requires. You don't get her back by wanting her, you get her back by becoming you.